I stare at my phone, the wedding dress pooling around me like spilled milk. The screen glows with the message that shatters my world. I can't walk you down the aisle. Marissa's event is too important to miss. I'll try for the reception. My father's words blur as tears flood my vision. The bridal suite spins around me, delicate champagne flutes on the vanity, my veil draped across a chair, bridesmaids frozen in various stages of preparation. The clock on the wall ticks mercilessly toward the ceremony. No, I whisper, then louder. No, no, no. With a strangled cry, I hurl my phone across the room. It hits the wall with a crack and tumbles to the carpet. My bridesmaids gasp in unison, Jessica's mascara wand suspended in midair, Tara's mouth forming a perfect O. Ari, what happened? Tara asks, taking a tentative step toward me. I can't answer, can't breathe. The room shrinks, walls closing in, my chest tightening until each heartbeat feels like a hammer against my ribs. The diamond engagement ring weighs heavy on my finger, a promise about to be fulfilled while another lies broken. The door swings open, and Melanie, our wedding planner, bustles in with her clipboard and perpetual efficiency. 3 hours until we need to line up, ladies. She stops abruptly, sensing the tension. What's going on? My father. The words scrape my throat. He's not coming. Not coming? Melanie's professional composure slips momentarily. But the ceremony, we planned everything around him walking you. Well, he's not. My voice sounds foreign to my own ears, brittle and sharp. My sister's event is apparently more important than my wedding day. The words hang in the air, their truth more painful spoken aloud. The memory rises unbidden, standing beside my mother's casket 17 years ago, my 13-year-old hand clutched in my father's as mourners filed past in a blur of black. I'll always be there for the important moments, Ari, he'd promised, his voice rough with grief. You and I, we're a team now. What a beautiful lie that had been. 9 months ago, when Ethan and I had set the date, Dad had seemed genuinely happy. We'd sat at his kitchen table, wedding magazines spread between us, and he'd placed his hand over mine. Nothing would make me prouder than walking you down the aisle, he'd said, eyes crinkling at the corners. For once, I'd believed him. The first warning sign came 3 months before the wedding, when Marissa called to announce her career celebration, scheduled for the same day. It's just bad timing, Dad had said during our Sunday dinner, pushing peas around his plate. I'm sure we can work something out. The ceremony is at 4, I'd reminded him. Her event isn't until 7. You can easily make both. The drive between venues, he'd hedged, is 45 minutes. I checked Dad. I'd reached for his hand. This is my wedding day. He'd squeezed my fingers. Of course I'll be there, sweetheart. We'll make it work. 2 weeks later, the traffic might be bad that weekend. Then, Marissa really needs family support for this promotion. Last week, I'm not sure about the timing. I'd reassured him each time, rearranged what I could, offered to send a car service, whatever it took to have my father walk me down the aisle. And now, 3 hours before I'm supposed to marry the love of my life, he sends a text. A text. We need to move forward, Melanie says, her voice gentler now. Is there someone else who could walk you down the aisle? An uncle, perhaps? Or would you prefer to walk alone? Alone. The word echoes in my head. My phone rings from where it landed on the floor. Jessica retrieves it, hands it to me wordlessly. Uncle Martin's name flashes on the screen. My father's older brother, the one who never missed a dance recital or graduation. I answer with trembling fingers. Hello? Ariana? His voice is warm, concerned. Your father just called me. I don't know what to say, sweetheart. A sob escapes before I can stop it. He's not coming, Uncle Martin. I know. The anger in his tone is barely contained, and I'm so sorry. I close my eyes, tears tracking through my carefully applied makeup. I don't know what to do. The silence stretches for only a moment before Uncle Martin clears his throat. Would you allow me the honor of walking you down the aisle? Quote. Something breaks and mends simultaneously in my chest. You'd do that? In a heartbeat. His voice breaks slightly. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Ari. Don't you worry about a thing. I end the call and look up at the circle of concerned faces around me. Something shifts inside me, a realization that maybe family isn't always who you're born to, but who shows up when it matters most. My Uncle Martin is coming, I announce, standing straighter. He'll walk me down the aisle. And somehow, despite everything, I know I'll be okay. Uncle Martin's offer settles around me like a warm blanket. I stand straighter, feeling a flicker of hope spark to life in my chest. The wedding dress rustles as my bridesmaids exhale in collective relief. He'll be here in 20 minutes, I announce, my voice steadier than before. Jessica approaches cautiously, her phone clutched in her hand, mascara wand forgotten. Ari, there's something you need to see. The hesitation in her voice makes my stomach clench. What is it? She holds out her phone, screen illuminated with a text conversation between her and my sister. Marissa sent these to me by mistake last month. I wasn't sure if I should show you, but now. I take the phone with trembling fingers, the diamond on my left hand catching the light. The texts are dated 3 weeks ago. Marissa, Dad's still wavering about the wedding. Keeps talking about making it work. Jessica, he promised Ari though, right? Marissa, don't worry. I know how to keep Dad to myself on wedding day. Already working on it. Jessica, Marissa, that's terrible. It's her wedding. Marissa, oops, wrong Jessica. Delete this. Not for bridal party, Jessica. The room tilts sideways. I sink onto the vanity stool, the screen blurring before me. I should have shown you sooner, Jessica whispers. I just couldn't believe she'd actually sabotage my wedding day. My voice sounds hollow in my own ears. I can believe it. The memory rises unbidden. 4 years ago, standing in an auditorium at MIT, scanning the crowd for my father's face as I accepted the National Computer Science Scholarship. He'd promised to be there. Had even texted that morning, confirming he was on his way. But the ceremony came and went without him. Later, he'd apologized profusely, claiming an emergency at work. It wasn't until months later that I discovered the truth through a casual comment from his assistant. Marissa had called, claiming I'd asked to reschedule his visit because I was too nervous to have him there. The pattern stretches back 17 years, to the raw days after Mom died. I was 13, devastated and adrift. Marissa, at 16, had swiftly positioned herself as the lady of the house, orchestrating family dinners, managing Dad's schedule, and systematically creating distance between him and me. She's been doing this for years, I say, more to myself than to Jessica, and he lets her. Tara wraps an arm around my shoulders. Your dad is an idiot, and your sister is worse. A knock at the door interrupts us. Melanie peeks in. Mrs. Carter is here. Ethan's mother? She's asking if she can see you. I nod, wiping hastily at my tears. Catherine Carter enters moments later, elegant in her pale blue mother of the groom dress. Her eyes widen at my tear-stained face. Oh, Ariana. She crosses the room and takes my hands in hers. Martin called me. I'm so sorry. The kindness in her voice threatens to unravel me completely. Since Ethan introduced us 2 years ago, Catherine has shown me more maternal understanding than I've experienced since my mother died. I don't understand why he'd do this. I confess, the words catching in my throat. Catherine sits beside me on the small love seat, still holding my hands. When I was 28, my father refused to attend my wedding to Gregory. He didn't approve of our interfaith marriage. Her voice carries the echo of old pain. I waited until the last minute, hoping he'd change his mind. Did he come? She shakes her head. No, and for years after, I kept hoping for his approval, rearranging holidays, making excuses for his absence at our children's birthdays. Her fingers tighten around mine. This isn't just about today, Ariana. It's about whether you'll let them keep breaking your heart for the rest of your life. The truth of her words lands like a physical weight. How many times had I rescheduled important events to accommodate Dad? How often had I swallowed disappointment when he canceled at the last minute for something Marissa deemed more important? I think of my first dinner at the Carters' home, how Gregory had pulled out my chair, how Catherine had remembered my favorite dessert from a casual mention months earlier, how their whole family had welcomed me with genuine warmth, showing me what real family support feels like. I've been chasing his approval my whole life. I whisper. And what has it gotten you? Catherine asks gently. Heartbreak. Disappointment. I straighten my shoulders, something resolute taking shape inside me. I won't let his absence ruin what should be the happiest day of my life. The clock on the wall shows we have 7 minutes until the ceremony should begin. 7 minutes to decide what kind of story today will tell. One of abandonment or of choosing happiness despite it. Martin will be here any minute, Catherine says, standing. Shall I help you fix your makeup? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes with a text from Ethan. Whatever you need today, I'm here. Even if that means waiting, I love you. Fresh tears spring to my eyes, but different ones. Tears of gratitude for the family I'm about to join, for the man who sees me clearly and loves me completely. I don't want to wait. I tell Catherine, this day isn't about who isn't here. It's about Ethan and me, and the people who chose to show up. Jessica and Tara exchange glances, relief evident on their faces. Melanie nods approvingly, already adjusting her timeline on her tablet. Have you ever had to choose between your own happiness and family expectations? I ask Catherine as she gently dabs concealer under my eyes. Many times, she replies, her smile both sad and wise. The day I stopped trying to earn my father's love was the day I truly began to live. The door opens 10 minutes later, and Uncle Martin stands there, slightly breathless in his hastily donned tuxedo, his eyes finding mine with such love that my heart swells. At that moment, I realize that family isn't determined by blood alone, but by who stands beside you when the world falls apart. I stand and smooth my dress, ready to walk toward my future rather than cling to a painful past. An hour later, after everyone got out of the room, my makeup artist was doing my makeup. My phone vibrates against the vanity as the makeup artist dabs concealer under my eyes. Robert's name flashes on the screen. I hesitate, then press the green button. Ariana. His voice crackles through the speaker. You're making this difficult for everyone by refusing to reschedule. Marissa worked hard for this promotion. My throat tightens. Dad, we set this date 9 months ago. And Marissa's event is important too. Why must you make me choose? The makeup artist pauses, brush hovering near my cheek. I didn't make you choose, I whisper, voice breaking. You did that all on your own. I end the call before he can respond, before I break down completely. The makeup artist wordlessly hands me a tissue. A soft knock interrupts the tense silence. The door swings open, and Uncle Martin stands there. In his hands, a small velvet box. I smile and nod as approval to enter, and he crosses the room in 3 long strides, enveloping me in a big hug. Look at you, he says, stepping back. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for everything. I love you. The words feel inadequate for the gratitude swelling inside me. Nothing could have kept me away. I love you too, sweetheart. I love you. His blue eyes crinkle at the corners. I brought something for you. He opens the velvet box, revealing a strand of pearls with a delicate silver clasp. They glow with a warm luster against the black velvet. These belong to my mother, he explains. She wore them at her wedding in 1952. I've kept them safe all these years, waiting for the right moment. My fingers hover over the pearls. Uncle Martin, I couldn't. You can and you will. His voice is firm but gentle. My mother would have wanted you to have these. Your family, Ariana. Real family. Jessica appears at the door and steps forward. Let me help you put them on. As she fastens the clasp behind my neck, the door opens again. Gregory, Ethan's father, pokes his head in. Martin, I brought that boutonniere you asked for. The 2 men exchange a glance loaded with unspoken understanding. Gregory enters, patting Martin's shoulder before turning to me. Ariana, everything's ready whenever you are. Ethan's as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. His attempt at levity brings a small smile to my face. I just need a few minutes with my niece, Martin says. Gregory nods, squeezes my hand, and leaves. My bridesmaid follows his lead, filing out until only Martin and I remain. Ariana, Uncle Martin guides me to sit. I need to tell you something. He perches beside me, hands clasped between his knees. When I graduated college, my father refused to attend the ceremony. What? Why? He wanted me to take over the family business. When I chose teaching instead, he saw it as a betrayal. Martin's gaze turns distant. I waited at that ceremony, scanning the crowd for his face. He never came. My heart aches for the young man he'd been. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Some men don't recognize what truly matters until it's too late, he continues. My father realized his mistake years later, but we'd lost so much time. I touched the pearls at my throat. Did you forgive him? Eventually, but I never forgot who showed up that day instead. My mother, wearing these pearls. His fingers brushed the necklace. She told me she was twice as proud, to make up for his absence. Melanie appears in the doorway. We need to practice the walk before guests arrive. Martin stands, offering his arm. Shall we? In the empty chapel, sunlight streams through stained glass, casting rainbow patterns across the aisle. The photographer adjusts her equipment, planning new first-look photos with Martin instead of Robert. We'll start here, Melanie demonstrates, then proceed at this pace. Martin and I take our positions. With each practice step down the aisle, something shifts between us. A bond strengthening, a silent understanding growing. His arm feels solid beneath my hand, his steps measured and sure. After the third walk-through, we pause at the altar. Tears I've been fighting all day finally spill over. What's wrong, sweetheart? Martin asks. I'm afraid, I confess, voice barely audible, that when I look back on today, all I'll remember is who wasn't here. Martin takes my hands in his. Then let's give you something beautiful to remember instead. He reaches into his pocket, withdrawing a handkerchief with the initials LMP embroidered in the corner. Your mother's? I ask, recognizing the letters. He nods. Linda Marie Parker. She gave this to me before she passed. Said someday you might need it. The simple cotton square with my mother's initials feels like a message across time. I press it to my cheek, breathing in the faint scent of lavender. Uncle Martin, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, Ariana. His voice roughens. Family shows up. That's all there is to it. Behind us, the chapel doors open. Guests begin to arrive, murmuring quietly as they find their seats. Almost time, Melanie announces. Martin straightens his tie. I have one question before we do this. What's that? Would your mother have approved of Ethan? The question catches me off guard, but the answer comes immediately. She would have loved him. Then she's here too, Martin says simply. In these pearls, in that handkerchief, in your heart. The people who truly love us never really leave. I stand taller, feeling the weight of the pearls against my collarbone, the soft handkerchief tucked into my bodice. I'm ready, I tell him, and for the first time today, I truly am. Martin offers his arm once more. Then let's go make some memories worth keeping. As we take our position behind the closed doors, waiting for the music to begin, I realize something profound. The person who deserves to be called family isn't always the one you're related to, it's the one who shows up when it matters most. 2 hours later, we have finalized the steps, my preparation, everything. I am counting the minutes till the ceremony begins. Through the draped windows of the preparation room, I catch glimpses of guests settling into white chairs on the lawn, their summer attire a kaleidoscope against the deep green of the gardens. Someone steps in front of my view, and I turn to face Uncle Martin. Are you ready? He asks, adjusting his boutonniere with steady fingers. The question carries more weight than he knows. Am I ready to walk down the aisle without my father? Am I ready to embrace this new definition of family that's forming around me like a protective circle? I touch the pearl necklace at my throat, cool against my skin. I am. Martin stands before me in his perfectly fitted tuxedo, the fabric hugging his shoulders just right. When he arrived 2 hours ago, breathless and determined, I never expected this transformation, from crisis to something that feels strangely meant to be. Your mother would be so proud, Martin says, his voice catching slightly. And Robert, well, he's made his choice. Through the door, I hear the string quartet transition to a new piece, signaling 5 minutes until the processional begins. My bridesmaids gather their bouquets, arranging themselves in the order we practiced yesterday. Jessica squeezes my arm as she passes. You look radiant, she whispers. Nobody will be thinking about who isn't here. But I know some will. Empty chairs have their own presence. Melanie appears with her headset and clipboard. Everyone's seated. Ethan is at the altar with the officiant. She studies my face. You good? I nod, surprised to find it's not a lie. The devastation from earlier has transformed into something else. Not quite peace, but resolution. The doors open, and my bridesmaids proceed one by one down the path toward the ceremony space. Then it's just Martin and me, waiting for our cue. He offers his arm. I've never been more honored than I am right now, sweetheart. His eyes shine with unshed tears. Not in my whole life. The music shifts to the wedding march, my signal. We step forward together, emerging from the shadows of the estate into brilliant sunshine. The assembled guests rise in unison, faces turning toward us. The white rose petals lining the path flutter slightly in the breeze. Each step feels momentous, each breath a conscious choice. Martin's arm is solid beneath my hand, his pace perfectly matched to mine. Halfway down the aisle, I spot Ethan. His eyes lock with mine, and tears spill freely down his cheeks. Not tears of pity, no, something else entirely. Something that looks remarkably like gratitude. Next to him, his parents beam with unmistakable pride. Catherine, who showed up this morning and helped me with makeup and hairstyle, nods encouragingly. When we reach the altar, Martin turns to face me. The familiar scent of his aftershave, the same he's worn since I was a child, wraps around me like a memory. With all the love of family, chosen and given, he says, placing my hand in Ethan's waiting palm. The celebrant steps forward, her voice carrying across the garden. Welcome, beloved friends and family. We gather today to witness the joining of Ariana and Ethan in marriage. She pauses, her gaze warm as she looks between us. I want to acknowledge the special role Martin has played today. Some bonds are forged through blood, others through choice. Both can be equally sacred. A murmur of approval ripples through the guests. From the corner of my eye, I see several of my father's relatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. Let them. This moment belongs to those who chose to be present. The ceremony unfolds like a dream, vows exchanged, rings placed on trembling fingers, a kiss that tastes of promise and new beginnings. Throughout it all, Martin stands nearby, a sentinel of support. Later, at the reception, the DJ's voice booms across the ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Carter, escorted by their beloved Uncle Martin. We enter to thunderous applause, Martin's hand lightly at my back. The space transforms with twinkle lights and flowers, creating a canopy of stars above the dance floor. When it's time for the father-daughter dance, I feel a moment of dread, another tradition that highlights absence. But Martin steps forward, offering his hand. Just for a minute, he says, then your husband gets his turn. We sway to the opening verse of What a Wonderful World, his formal posture gradually relaxing. The tension I've carried all day begins to dissolve. Thank you, I whisper. No need for thanks among family, sweetheart, he replies. Ethan cuts in smoothly, spinning me away from Martin with practiced ease. Over his shoulder, I spot a commotion at the entrance. My father stands in the doorway, wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit right, scanning the room with anxious eyes. He came, after all, Ethan murmurs, following my gaze. Too late, I reply, surprised by the absence of anger in my voice. Just clarity. Some moments you can't get back. Robert remains at the periphery, watching as everyone celebrates without him. For the first time, I don't feel the pull to make things easier for him, to bridge the gap he created. Martin approaches him with quiet dignity, and I turn away, focusing instead on the man whose hands hold mine with such care. Are you okay? Ethan asks. I consider the question, searching for honesty. I think I am, or I will be. The music swells around us, and I choose to dance. Half an hour later, the crystalline chime of silverware against glass ripples through the reception hall. Laughter fades as guests turn toward the center of the room where Ethan stands, champagne flute raised high, his eyes finding mine across a sea of smiling faces. I feel a tap on my shoulder. Ariana. My father's voice slices through the moment. I turn slowly, steeling myself. Robert Parker stands behind me, hair slightly disheveled, tie askew, as if he's been rushing. You made it, I say, voice flat as Kansas prairie. Traffic was brutal. He gestures vaguely toward the door. I tried calling, but you weren't answering. I was getting married. The words taste sharp on my tongue. His eyes flick around the reception, taking in the elegant centerpieces, the fairy lights draped from exposed beams, the happiness radiating from every corner of the room. Everything he missed. You could have made this easier, you know. Pushed the ceremony back an hour. Made what easier, Dad? Your choice? Before he can answer, Cousin Daniel appears at my elbow. His typical easygoing manner has vanished, replaced by something harder, more determined. Sorry to interrupt, Daniel says, not sounding sorry at all. He holds his phone out. But I thought you both should see this. The screen shows a group chat with Marissa and several friends. Heading to Murphy's for drinks. Dad skipped Ari's wedding for this, so you better show up. A series of photos follows. Marissa and maybe 15 people at a bar, cocktails raised, smiling broadly. Timestamp, 4:30 p.m., halfway through my ceremony. At first she said 7 o'clock, but I guess she changed the meeting time to prevent my dad from coming. That's her career event? My voice barely rises above a whisper. Daniel swipes to another screenshot. A text from Marissa to someone named Jen. Dad will have to choose between us. I'll make sure he chooses me. The air leaves my lungs in a rush. Daniel isn't finished. She changed the dates and time of her drinks 3 times. He opens a calendar app, showing invitations with different dates, each adjustment aligning perfectly with our wedding date changes when we had venue issues last month. I look up at my father. The color drains from his face like water down a drain, leaving behind something ashen and hollow. Robert. Uncle Martin approaches, champagne in hand. I didn't know you'd made it. My father doesn't acknowledge him. His eyes remain fixed on Daniel's phone, on the evidence of his daughter's manipulation. I didn't realize. He begins, then stops. Starts again. Ariana, if I had known... You would have what? The question hangs between us like a physical thing. Shown up? Kept your promise? Been there for once in my life when it actually mattered? Heads turn. Conversations nearby halt. My father notices, straightening his posture. I want to apologize, he announces, voice carrying. Guests shift uncomfortably in their seats. Not here, I say firmly. Not now. But I need to explain. No. The word comes out stronger than I expected, carrying across the sudden quiet. You made your choice 2 weeks ago when you started looking for excuses not to come. Now I'm making mine. Something shifts in the air between us. The invisible strings that have bound me to his approval, that have kept me hoping despite years of disappointment, snap clean. I feel their absence like phantom limbs, painful but freeing. Ariana. His voice breaks on my name. Enjoy the reception, Dad. I turn away, walking steadily back to where Ethan stands with his parents, their faces a mixture of concern and pride. Catherine, my mother-in-law, squeezes my hand as I rejoin them. Are you all right? Yes, and surprisingly, I am. I really am. From the corner of my eye, I watch Uncle Martin approach my father, who stands isolated at the edge of the dance floor. Martin speaks softly, hand on Robert's elbow, gently steering him away from the center of the celebration. She deserves this day without further drama. I hear Martin say as they pass our table. You can talk tomorrow. My father's shoulders slump in resignation as Martin leads him toward the bar in the far corner. For the first time, Robert Parker looks small to me, not the towering figure whose approval I've sought for 17 years, but just a man who made poor choices and is beginning to recognize their cost. Ethan's hand finds mine under the table. You okay? I nod, feeling the weight of the day, both its sorrows and joys, settle into something bearable, even beautiful, better than okay. The DJ announces another dance. As Ethan leads me to the floor, I catch sight of my father watching from the periphery, Martin standing guard beside him. The pain in Dad's eyes is real, but so was mine when I read his text this morning. Some wounds need air to heal properly. Some truths need to be spoken aloud before new beginnings can take root. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. There will be difficult conversations, perhaps tentative steps toward understanding. But tonight belongs to the family I've chosen, the one that showed up when it mattered most. As Ethan pulls me close, I realize that sometimes walking away isn't an ending. Sometimes, it's the first step toward something better. A year later, the autumn sunlight streams through the bay windows of Ethan's parents' home, casting a golden glow across our anniversary celebration. I adjust the small corsage on my wrist, white roses, just like my wedding bouquet, and smooth my hand over the slight swell of my belly. To Ariana and Ethan, Catherine raises her glass, her eyes crinkling at the corners. 1 year of marriage and a lifetime of joy ahead. The small gathering clinks their glasses. I sip my sparkling cider while Ethan's arm tightens around my waist. His lips brush my ear. Happy anniversary, Mrs. Carter. Gregory unveils a photo album, and we gather around the coffee table. Thought you might like to see how much family we've packed into 1 year. The pages turn, revealing our journey: Thanksgiving dinner with all of us crowded around this same table. Christmas morning with Uncle Martin teaching Ethan how to properly carve the ham. Easter with me awkwardly showing my father where we keep the good plates. Each photo captures a moment of our expanding definition of family. Remember when Robert almost set the grill on fire during the 4th of July? Gregory chuckles. I nod, remembering how my father had shown up with a store-bought potato salad and too many apologies. The The monthly dinners started small, just coffee at first, then proper meals. Each one a brick in the rebuilding of something I wasn't sure could be saved. Has Marissa called recently? Catherine asks, her tone careful. Not since she moved to Florida. I keep my voice neutral. She sent a card when we announced the pregnancy. That's something, I suppose. Uncle Martin clears his throat from the armchair by the fireplace. He's aged this past year, the lines around his eyes deeper, but his smile remains steadfast. I have something for you both. From beside his chair, he produces a package wrapped in tissue paper. My fingers tremble slightly as I unwrap it, revealing a delicate baby blanket in soft cream yarn. Alice knitted it before she passed. Martin says, his voice thick. Said it was for the next generation, whenever that might be. Seems the time has come. I trace the intricate pattern, thinking of Martin's wife I never met but whose legacy touches me still. It's beautiful, I whisper. The doorbell rings, and Ethan returns moments later with my father. Robert stands awkwardly in the doorway, clutching a weathered photo album. Sorry, I'm late, he says, his eyes finding mine. Traffic on the bridge was backed up. An old excuse that once would have twisted my heart. Today, I simply nod. We're just looking at photos. Join us? He settles on the edge of the sofa, opening his album. I found these yesterday. Thought you might want to see them. Inside are photos I've never seen my mother pregnant with me, her hand resting on her belly just as mine does now. I'm sorry I wasn't there when it mattered most, he says quietly. I can't change the past, but I'd like to be here for your future, for my granddaughter's future. I don't promise immediate forgiveness, but I take his hand, one day at a time. Later, as we gather for a group photo, I find myself between worlds, Ethan's steady presence on one side, Uncle Martin's gentle guidance on the other, my father hesitantly joining our circle. I place my hand on my growing belly, feeling the slight flutter that might be a kick or might be my imagination. Our daughter will know what real family loyalty means. I tell Ethan as Catherine adjusts the camera timer. The shutter clicks, capturing this moment of redefined family, some bound by blood, others by choice, all connected by the promises we choose to keep. I've learned that family isn't just about who raised you. It's about who shows up when it matters most. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it's about who gets a second chance to show up right. The cinnamon rolls need 5 more minutes. I slide the tray into the warm belly of the industrial oven and set the timer, watching golden morning light spread across the worn wooden floors of Delilah's oven. 1 year, 1 full year since I signed those papers and breathed life back into my father's legacy. The thought brings a smile to my face as I wipe flour-covered hands on my apron. My phone buzzes on the counter. Carson's name appears on the screen, strange for 5:30 a.m. My brother hasn't called in months. I tap the message open, expecting birthday wishes for the bakery's revival anniversary. I'm coming home to take over the bakery. You've done enough playing business owner. My hands tremble so violently I nearly drop the second tray of rolls. The corner catches against the hot oven rack, searing a red line across my palm. Pain shoots up my arm, but I barely register it, eyes fixed on those 11 words glowing on my screen. The burn throbs in time with my racing pulse. 1 year of 18-hour days. 1 year of missed rent payments on my apartment to cover payroll. 1 year of turning this place from a failing memory into a thriving business. And Carson thinks he can text his way back into ownership? I set the tray down, run cold water over the angry welt forming on my palm, and stare at the message again. The bakery's gentle morning quiet suddenly feels like the calm before a storm. Last February flashes through my mind. Dad's funeral. Somber faces gathered in the attorney's wood-paneled office. The collective inhale when Mr. Hendricks announced that Dad had left no specific instructions for Delilah's oven. Everyone turned toward Carson's empty chair, the golden child who'd fled to Seattle 6 years ago to find himself, while Dad worked himself into an early grave. It's underwater, Sable, Mom had whispered later that evening, shoulders curved with defeat as she spread bank statements across my kitchen table. Tax liens, equipment failing. Your father was too proud to tell anyone. The numbers blurred before my eyes, $68,000 in debt. The family legacy 2 payments away from foreclosure. 3 days later, I stood in that same attorney's office, emptying my savings account and signing loan papers that made me physically sick with fear. Mom watched with uncertainty as I signed the final document making me the official owner of Delilah's Oven Bakery. You sure about this, honey? Carson might want. Carson isn't here, I'd said, pressing the pen so hard into the paper it nearly tore. I am. The timer dings, yanking me back to the present. I pull out the perfectly browned cinnamon rolls, their scent filling the kitchen with memories of Saturday mornings at Dad's side. The business is mine. The recipes are mine. The debt was mine. And now, the success is mine too. I pick up my phone and call Carson directly. He answers on the second ring, sounding entirely too cheerful. Morning, sis. Got my message, huh? Listen, I can be there by the weekend to start the transition. I've got some great ideas too. The bakery is legally mine, I interrupt, my voice steadier than I feel. I bought it, rebuilt it, and saved our family legacy that you abandoned. Silence stretches between us. Then Carson laughs, the sound grating against my ear. A few signatures don't change blood. Dad always meant for me to run it. You're just keeping my seat warm. The casual dismissal in his voice ignites something in my chest. My shoulders straighten as I stare at the morning's first batch of bread dough, waiting to be shaped. We both know that's not true. I end the call without another word, set my phone face down on the counter, and plunge my hands into the dough with newfound determination. 10 minutes later, my phone rings again. Mom's name flashes on the screen. Of course. Sable, honey, she begins, voice gentle in that way that always precedes unwelcome advice. Carson just called. He's upset. I imagine he is. He says you were rude to him. I press the heel of my hand into the dough, ignoring the sting from my burn. Was he rude when he texted me that he's taking over the business I own? Mom sighs. You know your brother. He's impulsive, but maybe you could consider his perspective? Maybe you both could share management? He has that business degree after all. The words land like a slap. After everything, the loans, the 70-hour weeks, the nights I slept on the office couch to save money, she still sees me as temporary. Dad's placeholder until the prodigal son returns. Mom, I have to go. Customers will be here soon. I hang up and stare at the trays of pastries I've prepared since 4 a.m. Everything I've built could slip through my fingers if Carson convinces the family I'm just playing at being a business owner. The burn on my palm throbs, a physical reminder of what I've sacrificed while Carson built his resume in Seattle. This bakery isn't just my livelihood. It's become my identity, the woman who saved Delilah's oven when everyone else had given up. And no one, not even blood, is going to take that from me. 3 days later, I should be piping icing onto morning buns. Instead, I'm frozen in my cramped office chair, staring at an email thread I was never meant to see. 3 months ago, while I was taking out a second loan to replace our ancient mixer, Carson was already planning his grand return. Not to save our family legacy, but to sell it to the highest bidder. As discussed, once I assume control of Delilah's oven, we can move forward with acquisition plans. Carson wrote to someone at National Bread Company. The transition should be seamless. My stomach lurches. I lean against the wall, breath coming in shallow bursts as I scroll through more messages. Phrases jump out like slaps. Replace current staff with trained corporate team members, and standardize recipes for consistency across locations. The final blow comes in an attached document. A press release draft dated tomorrow announcing Carson's return to save the struggling family business. The business whose revenue I've tripled in 12 months. Sable? Sable. Marcus calls from the kitchen. Your brother's here. With your mom. I tuck my tablet into a drawer and straighten my flour-dusted apron. The burn on my palm throbs as I clench my fists. In the kitchen, Carson stands tall in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than our monthly flour budget. Mom hovers at his elbow, her eyes darting between us, already playing peacemaker before a word is spoken. There she is. Carson says with practiced warmth that doesn't reach his eyes, the baker extraordinaire. What are you doing here, Carson? I keep my voice even, aware of Marcus pretending not to listen while he shapes sourdough loaves. Just getting the lay of the land before my investor meeting tomorrow. Carson runs a finger along the butcher block counter, inspecting it for dust. Some promising opportunities for expansion. Expansion? I echo. Of my bakery? Our bakery, Mom corrects gently. Family business. The bakery I purchased, with legal documents and everything. I turn to Mom. How did he get in before opening hours? Mom's gaze drops to the floor. I might have made him a copy of my key. The betrayal stings worse than yesterday's burn. You had no right. I've been talking with some of your staff, Carson interrupts, as if I hadn't spoken, getting their input on my vision. Most seem excited about the changes. Marcus's hands pause briefly over the dough before continuing their work, his shoulders tense. Carson reaches into his leather messenger bag and pulls out my ledger, the one I keep in the locked cabinet beside the register. Dad's recipes with some Instagram filters don't make you a businesswoman, Sable. You went through my financial records? Heat rises in my chest, making it hard to breathe. Someone had to. He flips through pages with casual disregard. You're one bad month away from collapse. That's not true. My voice rises despite my efforts to stay calm. We're profitable now. We've been profitable for months. Only because you're paying yourself poverty wages, Carson counters. Hardly sustainable. Mom steps between us, hands raised. Let's all take a breath, shall we? Carson has some wonderful ideas that could benefit everyone. Like selling to National Bread Company? The words escape before I can stop them. Carson's smile falters, just for a moment. You've been snooping. In my own email, which you apparently accessed without permission. I was helping Mom set up her new phone. He waves dismissively. Those messages were sent to your shared business account. The $68,000 of my savings. The additional loan that keeps me awake at night. The inheritance I saved while he built his resume in Seattle. All of it hanging by a thread because my brother wants to cash in. I've scheduled a staff meeting tomorrow, Carson announces. I'll be outlining some exciting changes. You can't do that, I say, but my voice lacks conviction. Someone from National Bread will be joining us. Carson tucks my ledger back into his bag, just to observe. Marcus has stopped pretending not to listen, his eyes meeting mine with concern. Honey, Mom says, laying a gentle hand on my arm. Maybe this is for the best. You could handle the baking side, while Carson manages the business aspects. He does have that MBA after all. The bell above the front door chimes, signaling our first customer. I step away from Mom's touch, wiping flour from my hands with mechanical precision. I should get those cinnamon rolls out of the oven, I say, moving toward the kitchen. Don't worry about the staff meeting, Carson calls after me. I've got it covered. Eleanor Winthrop, our first customer every Tuesday for 30 years, peers around Carson's shoulder. Her keen eyes take in the tension, Carson's suit, my flushed face. Morning, Sable dear, she announces loudly. I hope those are your cinnamon rolls in the oven. I don't come here for corporate nonsense. I come for Sable Harrington's baking. The small victory in Eleanor's words gives me just enough strength to make it through the morning rush. But as I lock up that night, watching Carson drive away in his leased luxury car, I wonder if I should confront him publicly at his staff meeting, or prepare a more calculated response with my legal documents. Making a scene might feel satisfying, but would it actually protect what I'd built? What would you do when someone tries to take credit for your hard work and sacrifice? The notification pops up on my phone screen as I'm measuring flour for tomorrow's sourdough. Carson's smiling face stares back at me from our bakery's Instagram account, my bakery's account. Thrilled to announce my return as CEO of Delilah's Oven. Stay tuned for exciting new directions as I continue my father's legacy. Flour billows up as my fist tightens around the measuring cup. The burn on my palm throbs with renewed pain. Within minutes, my phone buzzes with messages from confused customers. Are you leaving, Sable? What's this about new management? Is something happening to the bakery? I'm still composing careful responses when Marjorie from Asheville Business Monthly calls. I'd love to interview you and your brother about the prodigal son's triumphant return to save the family business. She chirps. My teeth grind so hard I taste enamel dust. There's been a misunderstanding, I say, but Carson has already scheduled the interview for tomorrow. When I arrive before dawn the next morning, the bakery floor has been transformed. The vintage display cases Dad restored now crowd the back wall. The community bulletin board where locals post flyers has vanished. In its place stands a sleek digital menu board still blank, but ominous in its modernity. Needed to clear floor space, Carson says, appearing from the office with a coffee I didn't make him. Customers get confused with too many focal points. Those focal points built this community, I say, but he's already scrolling through his phone, dismissing me with a wave. By noon, I can't access the register system. Change the passwords, Carson explains when I confront him. Security updates. I'll email you the new ones later. He doesn't. That night, I spread my purchase agreement across my kitchen table, searching for loopholes I might have missed. Did Dad leave some clause I overlooked? Some family provision that supersedes my investment? The legal language blurs as exhaustion sets in. The next morning, I start taking photos of everything: the rearranged floor, the locked register screen, the new vendor order forms Carson has left on my desk. I document each change in a notebook, meticulous as a crime scene investigator. The staff tiptoes around us both. Molly from the front counter keeps glancing between us when we give contradicting instructions about the day's special display. Marcus, my head baker, purses his lips when Carson suggests we could streamline production by ordering pre-made croissant dough. Who's actually in charge here? My head baker croissant dough. Molly finally asks during a particularly tense standoff over whether to offer samples of our new lemon scones. I am. We answer simultaneously. Later, I overhear Carson on the phone with Walter, our flour supplier for 20 years. We should discuss pricing, Carson says. My sister's been overpaying for basic ingredients. I have connections with larger distributors who can cut those costs by 30%. Walter has driven his delivery truck from his family mill every Tuesday for decades. He taught me to recognize quality flour by the feel between my fingers when I was 8. That night, I sleep at the bakery, curled on the small couch in the office. The thought of Carson renegotiating the relationships I've carefully maintained keeps me awake until the early morning prep time. When I drag myself to the kitchen to start the day's first batch, I notice my recipe book open on the counter. A folded note sits between pages of my cinnamon roll recipe. Some people inherit a legacy, others earn it. We're with you, boss. Below Marcus's neat handwriting, every employee has signed their name. Something warm unfurls in my chest, stronger than the burn on my palm. I'm elbow deep in dough when Carson strolls in at 6, freshly showered and dressed in another crisp button-down that would be splattered with flour in minutes if he actually baked anything. We need to talk about the farmer's market schedule, he says, leaning against the counter where I work. I'm thinking we scale back. Too much effort for minimal return. The farmer's market was my first expansion after taking over the place where we gained 50 new regular customers and found our organic egg supplier. Not happening, I say, continuing to knead. This isn't personal, Sable. It's business. His voice softens with practiced sincerity. You did good keeping it afloat, but Dad always wanted me to have this. We both know that. My hands never stop working the dough as I look up at him. Dad's wishes died with him. What matters are my actions, my investment, and my legal ownership. For the first time, the words feel completely true. I don't need Dad's ghostly approval or Mom's validation. The bakery is mine because I saved it. Period. Carson's face hardens. I can make this ugly. I'll tell every vendor and customer how you pushed out family, how you betrayed Dad's memory. K. I fold the dough with steady hands, the rhythm unbroken. Threats don't rise like good bread, Carson. The next morning, Marcus arrives 30 minutes early. Then Molly. Then everyone else. They quietly prepare for the farmer's market while Carson sleeps in, unaware I've adjusted his new schedule in the staff room. The sourdough loaves are selling twice as fast since you changed the hydration ratio, Marcus tells me as we load the van. The old way was good. This is better. Meanwhile, Mom still hasn't returned my calls since I refused Carson's compromise. Walter's delivery truck rumbles up as we're finishing. He hands me the invoice directly. Your brother called again. Wanted me to change our arrangement, he says, hefting a bag of specialty flour. Told him I don't do business with people whose hands are softer than my pillowcase. That afternoon, I compile everything into a folder, the purchase agreement, before and after financial statements, showing the bakery's transformation from near bankruptcy to profitability, tax filings that bear only my signature. I call Heather Jenkins, the notary who witnessed my purchase and sits on the town business council. Carson's holding a staff meeting tomorrow. I tell her, I think it's time everyone understood exactly who owns Delilah's oven. The next day, I walk into the bakery carrying my folder. Carson stands at the front, gesturing broadly to a room I expected to hold only staff. Instead, it's filled with regular customers, local vendors, and even Marjorie from the business magazine. I tuck the folder firmly under my arm and step forward. I stand at the back of the bakery as Carson finishes his speech, my leather folder clutched against my chest like armor. The room buzzes with whispers, packed with more than just my staff. Regular customers fill every chair, their curious eyes darting between my brother and me. So as you can see, Carson says, flashing that practiced smile he uses at networking events. I'm excited to return and guide Delilah's oven into its next chapter. My business degree and connections will elevate what my sister has maintained. Maintained. The word lands like a slap, as if I've been a glorified housekeeper rather than the owner who dragged this place back from financial ruin. I step forward, my burn mark throbbing beneath the bandage as I set my folder on the center table. Making eye contact with each person present, I draw out the documents one by one. Before we discuss future plans, I say, my voice steadier than I expected, I'd like to clarify the current reality of Delilah's oven. I spread the purchase agreement across the table, its official seal gleaming under the lights. This is the legal document transferring ownership to me, signed and notarized last February. Next comes the loan paperwork showing my personal liability for the bakery's debts. These are the financial obligations I assumed $68,000 in tax liens and equipment loans that were 2 months from foreclosure. Carson's confident smile falters as murmurs ripple through the assembled crowd. I lay out the profit and loss statements next, and these show our growth over the past year from nearly bankrupt to profitable in 12 months. Finally, I display before and after photos of the bakery. The before, peeling paint, outdated fixtures, empty display cases. The after, warm wood accents, full cases of innovative pastries, and the community bulletin board that has become a neighborhood gathering point. Everything you see today exists because of investments I made and risks I took when no one else would, I say, looking directly at Carson. He steps forward, interrupting with a dismissive wave. Look, no one's questioning that Sable kept things afloat, but let's be honest, she took advantage of our family's grief to grab Dad's legacy while I was building my career. The accusation hangs in the air for only a moment before Mrs. Farewell, who's bought her morning pastry here for 30 years, rises from her seat by the window. Young man, she says, her voice quavering with age but firm with conviction. I remember when this place had foreclosure notices on the door. Where were you then? Your sister mortgaged her future to save this bakery. Carson adjusts his tie, clearly thrown off script. With all due respect, ma'am, bakeries are businesses, not charities. Sable's pricing structure and menu changes show a lack of business acumen that... Marcus, my head baker, steps forward with his tablet. Actually, I prepared these figures for today's meeting. He turns the screen toward the group. Revenue has tripled under Sable's leadership. We've expanded from 7 bread varieties to 23 while maintaining quality. A rumble of approval moves through the room as Carson's face reddens. Where were you when the mixer broke last summer? Asks Eleanor from the back. Sable was here at midnight mixing dough by hand. Or, when the health inspector showed up unexpectedly, adds Walter, who delivers our flour. Sable had this place so clean he said it should be the standard for the county. Carson glances at our mother, who sits quietly in the corner, her expression unreadable. The bakery needed professional management, Carson insists, his voice rising. Dad always intended. Dad's intentions died with him. I interject quietly. What matters are actions, not intentions. Standing there with everyone watching, I wonder if I should offer Carson some role in the bakery as a peace offering, or if drawing a firm boundary is the only way to protect what I've built. What would you do? Extend an olive branch or stand your ground completely? The question hangs in my mind as Marcus speaks up again. When suppliers raised prices last winter, Sable worked 18-hour days for 3 months straight, he says, looking around the room. She slept on the office couch to avoid laying off a single person, including me, a new hire she barely knew. Eleanor nods vigorously. And she kept Dad's original cinnamon roll recipe exactly the same, while adding those wonderful gluten-free options some of us need now. She pats her stomach meaningfully. Didn't forget the regulars while welcoming new folks. Another customer chimes in. My daughter's wedding cake, remember how you stayed up all night redoing it after the refrigerator failed? Carson, were you there for that? With each story, Carson appears increasingly isolated, shifting his weight from foot to foot as his comeback attempts fall flat against the wall of community support. Mother finally stands, her discomfort visible in her tight shoulders and pinched expression. She glances between her children, clearly struggling with the mounting evidence contradicting the family narrative she's clung to. Carson checks his watch, his confidence visibly crumbling. This is ridiculous. I'll handle this legally, he announces, turning toward the door. Carson, wait. I call. The room quiets as he pauses. Please stay. We're having a special community breakfast this Sunday to celebrate the bakery's revival anniversary. I'd like you to be there. Quote. He stares at me, confusion replacing anger as he realizes I'm not gloating in his defeat. Everyone's welcome. I continue, addressing the room. To thank you all for believing in Delilah's oven when its future wasn't certain. As applause fills the bakery, I catch my mother's eye. For the first time since this began, she's looking at me, really looking with something that might be respect. The next day, the cinnamon rolls need 5 more minutes. I slide the tray into the warm oven and check my watch, 6:30. Carson and Mom should arrive soon for our compromise discussion. My stomach tightens at the thought. The bell above the front door jingles. I wipe my hands on my apron and step out from the kitchen to find them already seated at the corner table, a manila folder between them. Carson wears a pressed button-down with the sleeves rolled up to show his watch. Dad's watch. Mom fidgets with her wedding ring, eyes darting around the bakery before settling on me. Morning, Carson says, his voice smoothed into that professional tone he uses with clients. Thanks for meeting before opening. I nod, untying my apron. Coffee? Let's just get to business, Carson says, tapping the folder. We've drafted a reasonable compromise. Mom leans forward. We think this is best for everyone, honey. Carson slides the papers across the table. Bold type at the top reads, Transfer of partial ownership. I scan the first paragraph, heat rising in my chest. The document proposes I retain 40% ownership, while Carson assumes the role of business director with controlling interest. Your father would want you both involved. Mom says, her voice barely above a whisper. This family has suffered enough division. The stress of this situation isn't good for Mom. Carson adds, glancing at her with practiced concern. Think about how this looks to the community, Sable. The Harringtons at war over bread and pastries? I fold the papers and hand them back. No. No discussion? Not even for family peace? Mom's hand trembles as she reaches for mine. Please, Sable. My blood pressure can't take much more of this. The timer on my phone buzzes. Excuse me, I say, walking to the kitchen. As I pull the tray of perfectly golden cinnamon rolls from the oven, I hear the back door open. Marcus enters, followed by Eleanor and 2 other regular customers. Right on time. Morning, boss, Marcus says loud enough for Carson and Mom to hear. I return to the dining area, my small audience filing in behind me, Carson's eyes narrow at the unexpected company. I've considered your compromise, I say, placing my phone on the table. But before I respond, I think everyone should hear what you really plan to do with Delilah's oven. I tap the screen, and Carson's voice fills the quiet bakery. Once I get control from Sable, we'll move quickly. Heartland Bakery Group is offering 7 figures if we transition within 90 days. A pause, then Carson again. Of course we'll replace the staff. Their artisanal nonsense is charming but inefficient. The recipes will be standardized. It's just business. Carson lunges for my phone. You recorded me? That's playing dirty. Playing dirty? I laugh, the sound surprising even me. Was it playing dirty when you talked to my staff behind my back? When you changed the passwords? When you scheduled meetings with my vendors? You're betraying your family, Carson hisses. I didn't betray anything. I saved what you abandoned. I pull a folder from beneath the counter. Here are the 5 emails I sent you when Dad got sick. Here's the text message asking you to come home when the equipment started failing. Here's the voicemail transcript from when the tax lien notice arrived. Eleanor steps forward, her 75 years somehow making her more imposing as she peers over her glasses at Carson. I've been coming to this bakery since your grandfather opened it. Where were you when the lights almost went out for good? Carson looks to Mom for support, but her eyes are fixed on the papers in my hand. You never told me she tried to reach him, Mom says quietly. The morning sun breaks through the front windows, bathing the display cases in golden light as the first customers begin to gather outside. I unlock the door 10 minutes early, greeting familiar faces as they enter. The aroma of fresh cinnamon rolls fills the space. A woman in a tailored blazer approaches the counter. Sable Harrington? I'm Diane Fletcher, from the Asheville Business Journal. We're doing a feature on family businesses making remarkable turnarounds. Perfect timing, Carson says, smoothly inserting himself beside me. Carson Harrington, I've recently returned to help guide our family legacy. Oh? Diane opens her notebook. So you're co-owners? I slide my folder across the counter. Actually, I'm the sole owner. I purchased Delilah's oven last year when it was facing foreclosure. Diane pages through the documents, eyebrows rising. Impressive turnaround. Tax liens, equipment failures, and now I hear you're one of the most profitable independent bakeries in the county. My sister has done some basic maintenance, Carson interjects, but the Harrington Bakery has always been. Where were you when the bakery had tax liens and failing equipment? Diane asks, pen poised. Carson's confident smile falters. I was pursuing other opportunities that broadened my business expertise. Sometimes distance provides perspective that... He was in Seattle, I say, working at a startup that failed 6 months ago. He hasn't set foot in this bakery until recently, when he texted me that he was taking over. Carson's face reddens. Family businesses are complicated. Sable is oversimplifying a nuanced situation. A young customer near the register holds up her phone, the video recording light blinking. Carson notices and straightens his shirt. Our readers would love to hear about your vision for the bakery's future, Diane says, turning to me. As I describe our plans for a small satellite location downtown, Carson backs toward the door, muttering about other appointments. Mom remains seated, watching me with an expression I can't quite read, something between surprise and recognition. Later that afternoon, Marcus shows me the video of Carson's fumbling explanation, already circulating among local business owners with the caption, "Prodigal son returns. After sister saves family business." Heard he's packing up, Marcus says, sliding a fresh espresso across the counter to me. Rumor is he's heading back to Seattle tomorrow. I nod, surprised by the hollow feeling beneath my triumph. What about Mom? She ordered 2 loaves of sourdough for dinner, said she'd pick them up herself. After closing, I sort through Dad's old recipe books, searching for his original cinnamon roll instructions. A folded piece of paper slips from between the pages, Dad's familiar handwriting catching my eye. For Sable, the true heart of this bakery. The paper trembles in my hand. How long had this note been hidden here? Did Mom know? Had she seen it before I found the courage to save what everyone else had given up on? The scar on my palm throbs faintly as I trace Dad's words with my finger, wondering what other truths might still be waiting to be discovered. The next day, I stand at the front of Delilah's oven, facing 20 eager faces, clutching notepads and wearing aprons with our logo. Morning light streams through the windows, casting a golden glow across the workspace I've arranged for today's community baking workshop. The secret to our cinnamon rolls isn't just in the ingredients. I explain, my voice carrying confidently across the room. It's in respecting the dough. Give it time to develop structure and flavor. I need the demonstration batch with practiced movements, no longer second-guessing my technique. My father's recipe cards sit untouched on the counter. I know these methods by heart now, Mrs. Farewell raises her hand. You make it look so natural, Sable, like you were born to run this place. The comment warms me. 6 months ago, I would have deflected the praise or credited my father. Today, I simply nod. Thank you. I've put in the hours to make it look easy. My gaze drifts to my office door, where architectural plans for our second location hang prominently. The financing came through last week, proof that the bank sees what I've built as worthy of investment. As I guide the class through the rolling technique, I notice the scar on my palm has faded to a thin silver line. I run my thumb across it briefly, a physical reminder of how far I've come from that morning when Carson's text made me drop the tray. Later that afternoon, the bell above the door chimes. I look up from the register to find Carson standing awkwardly in the entrance, a small suitcase beside him. Heading out? I ask, wiping flour from my hands. He nods, glancing around at the renovated space. Seattle startup offered me a position. I leave tonight. I pour coffee into 2 mugs without asking if he wants any. Good luck with it. Carson accepts the cup, his eyes landing on the community bulletin board I've reinstalled, now filled with thank you notes and photos from local events we've supplied. You know, Dad probably would have been proud of what you've done here, he says finally. The words hang between us. 6 months ago, I would have grasped at this validation, treasured it like a rare gift. Now I simply sip my coffee. I know, I reply. After closing, Marcus and the staff linger, helping rearrange tables for tomorrow. Elena brings out a bottle of champagne while I place a tray of cinnamon rolls made from the original recipe in the center. To building something that lasts, Marcus says, raising his glass. We toast as laughter fills the space that once echoed with tense arguments and ultimatums. Marcus pulls a wrapped package from behind the counter and hands it to me. "From all of us," he says. Inside is a framed photograph from my first day as owner, flour covering my worried face as I tackled a mountain of paperwork. The simple caption reads, "The Real Inheritance." Sunday morning arrives with a gentle rain. I'm sliding trays into the oven when the back door opens. My mother stands there, hesitant but determined. "Need an extra pair of hands?" she asks. I point to an apron on the hook. Timing's perfect. Morning rush starts in an hour. We work side by side, her movements tentative at first, as I show her the ordering system I developed. On the counter between us lie the architectural plans for the second location. Her eyes drift to them occasionally with something like pride. "Your father always said you had the touch for this place," she says quietly, crimping pie edges with careful fingers. I should have remembered that. I don't respond immediately, focusing instead on sliding a fresh tray of cinnamon rolls into the oven with steady, confident hands. The scent of cinnamon and sugar fills the kitchen, as familiar as breathing. As I watch my mother finally working beside me as a partner rather than a doubter, I wonder if some relationships need to be completely broken before they can be rebuilt properly. What would you do? Forgive the past completely, or maintain healthy boundaries even with family who once betrayed you?